Hey there, fellow fantasy football freaks. It's me, the Fantasy TyRant, back once again in the fantasy armchair to kick some ass and chew gum. And I'm all out of gum. So let's go ahead and get started with another preview of my content that you're going to get every week on Tuesdays and Wednesdays starting, hey, how about next week, numbnuts? Last week I gave everyone a taste of what you get on Tuesdays. So this week, let's see what we're going down on Wednesdays with a little segment that I like to call Benches and Bumps, Benches and Bumps, Benches and Bumps. So benches and bumps is like sit and start, but better. So I'm going to tell you some advantageous matchups and scenarios for some players that you're going to want to bump up into your starting lineup. Or those players that are on decline or in bad matchups that you're going to want to put on your bench. Let's start off with the QBs, and this week we're going to give the big bump to Justin Herbert. Because this rookie has looked phenomenal this year ever since he's been given the keys to the offense. Proving that an Oregon Ducks QB can actually be good in the NFL, not just, complete horse shit. This is a good week to start him and maybe even set him and forget him going forward. Jacksonville has been a fantasy wonderland for QBs, and that bodes well for Herbert as he'll be looking to pepper his favorite target, Keenan Allen, with productive targets all day long. I could see another 3-touchdown, 300-yard day for the Rook. So why don't you bump Herbert up to your starting lineup this week and moving forward. Other QBs to bump up this week? The stash hasn't disappointed like many thought that he would this season, and since Jacksonville D sucks, they're going to need to score a lot. So look for MINSHEW Mania to run wild once again. And Matthew Stafford disappointed last week, but this week he's got Atlanta, and when you have two teams with potent offenses who suck complete camel tits on D, you're probably looking at a high-scoring game. Vegas says 56.5. I believe it. Look for Stafford to produce enough of those points to bump him into top 10 QB status this week. On the other side of the coin, Ryan Tannehill's played well this season, and he's proved that last year's late season surge was no fluke. He's earning that contract he got, and while he's been straight money the past 2 weeks, I do see things cooling off for him this week against one of the best defenses in the league. Pittsburgh's been giving up the second fewest fantasy points to QBs this season, and they've faced more than just like a pack of jamokes. They held Deshaun Watson in check, so I don't think that Tannehill's going to fare much better. There will be better weeks ahead for the Titan signal caller, but if you have other options, and you probably do, this might be a good week to leave Tannehill on your bench. Other QBs to bench this week, Jared Goff against the Bears D. Goff is unpredictable, but the Bears D is not. They're solid against opposing QBs, and this game will be low scoring and quite boring, so put Goff on your bench this week. And Derek Carr hasn't been terrible so far this season, but I think this is the week that he puts up a stinker and shits himself against the top fantasy defense in the league in Tampa Bay. He's barely viable even in 2 QB leagues this week and probably going forward, so put him on your bench. And that's it for the QBs, but as far as running backs go, my bump of the week is DeAndre Swift. He had 14 touches in Week 6, 2 more than he had the rest of the season combined. Clearly, the Lions see the potential they have in their second early-round running back, and there's no sense straying away from that. The Pandora's box has been opened, so now it's time for Old Man Peterson to step aside and let the young buck fuck shit up between the tackles, on the outside, in the passing game. This kid can do it all. And this week, he faces a Falcons D who's been a sieve for fantasy running backs, other than, Madison last week. They're ranked 25th against the run this season, so I smell a big week for Swift. So go ahead and give him the bump into your starting lineup and reap the benefits of high-end RB2 production. Other running backs to bump up this week, Todd Gurley has a great matchup on the other side of the ball from Swift. The Lions are almost as bad against the run as the Falcons. Gurley has played better than expected and has a tasty matchup this week. Hopefully he scores 20 plus this week and you can sell him high next week before his knee arthritis catches up later this season. Give him the bump to your starting lineup this week. And Bruce Arians must have been telling the truth about running back for once when he said that Rojo was their man. He's proven that through 6 weeks, having eclipsed 100 yards rushing 3 weeks in a row now. And this Sunday, he's got a big money jackpot matchup in Vegas against the Raiders. Bump him up with confidence. So that's who to bump. But who are we going to bench this week? Well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire proved that he is the top dog, and it's not going to matter when Lev Bell comes in. He's got that top spot secured with his great game that he had Monday night. But it's not going to matter this week because he faces the #1 defense against fantasy running backs, the Denver Broncos. And it's not like they've been only stopping a bunch of jabronis. How about some names like Derrick Henry or Ronald Jones. In fact, James Conner was the only running back who put up a decent day against the Broncos D. Plus, Lev Bell will make a start, and even though I don't expect him to take over the job, he will take a few touches away from CEH. Now, most weeks that could be overcome, but not this week against this defense. Nuh-uh. You better put CEH on your bench. Other running backs I'd bench this week, David Montgomery draws a stout Rams D led by Aaron Donald that held the Niners running backs to single-digit fantasy points apiece last week. And Montgomery couldn't even put up a good game in a gimme against the Panthers in Week 6. I don't think he'll do better than the Niners running backs did against the Rams last week, so put him on your bench. And Darrell Henderson. The Bears D is legit. They'll likely dictate the pace and make this game into a defensive slogfest that'll lull us all to sleep. Plus, Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers are still crowding the Rams' backfield, so this doesn't look like a good week for Henderson. Put him on your bench. Now for the wide receivers, my bump of the week is going to go to Terry McLaurin. Kyle Allen's been more competent than Haskins, and he has no problem hucking the rock to Washington's top wide receiver. And this week, Scary Terry gets to partake in the fantasy fiesta that is the Dallas Cowboys. And I guarantee he'll feast like John Madden at Thanksgiving. He's already a top 20 wide receiver through 6 games, so this might be the breakout game he's been looking for against this Dallas secondary. Give him a bump to your starting squad with no hesitation. Other wide receivers that I'm giving the bump this week, T. Higgins is quickly becoming Joe Burrow's go-to guy, overtaking Tyler Boyd, and his matchup against the Browns' shitty-ass defense looks promising. So give T. Higgins a big bump to your starting lineup. Deebo Samuel's back and hasn't missed a beat. Now that the offense is getting healthy again, it's going to be the Deebo and Kittle show for the Niners all damn season. Hey, call me a homer. But I think that show makes a grand appearance this week against a struggling Pats defense. So give Deebo the big bump to your lineup. As for who to put on your pine, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we should temper expectations for Allen Robinson this week. I mean, he's been a stud, even when Nick Foles hasn't been. But he's going to be getting the shadow treatment from Jalen Ramsey this week, and that's a bad omen for A-Rob, no matter how talented he is. The Rams are the best defense against opposing wide receivers this season. But you might not have a lot of options to start, and you might have to go with Allen Robinson, but you're not going to like it. Call it a hunch, but I see a single-digit day coming in what's likely to be a low-scoring shitstorm of boring fuck-all. Translation, if you're deep enough at wide receiver, go ahead and put A-Rob on your bench. Other wide receivers to bench this week, DJ Moore is starting to finally wake the fuck up, and with Marshawn Lattimore shadowing him in New Orleans, he might be taking a snooze this week. This might be a Robbie Anderson day, so if and only if you have better options at wide receiver, put DJ Moore on your bench. And staying on the topic of shadows, Darius Slayton will likely be shadowed by Eagles star corner Darius Slay. Wait, Darius Slayton? Darius Slay? What the fuck is this? It's like when the Madden developers get lazy putting together the names for the draft classes, right? Except this shit's real. Slay will slay tons as the Darius twins battle it out on the field. It's a tough matchup for Slayton, plus his quarterback is about as useless as balls in a parakeet, so leave the bum on your bench. So that's it for your benches and bumps preview. Now typically I do tight ends, do some streaming defenses and kickers, and go into those deep dives as well. But this was just a taste of what's coming starting next week. So you're gonna have to hit subscribe, hit that bell, start watching next week to get the full content, okay? Alright, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a little bit of deep dive, but just a quickie, okay? No, not like that, you sick freak. My deep dive at QB for Week 7's gotta be Kyle Allen, because he proved that he can play well when given the opportunity, and with a bonus matchup against the exploitable Cowboys D, he could be a sneaky sleeper this week. At running back, I like Justin Jackson, who, after this week, might not be considered such a deep dive. He, over Joshua Kelly, has been the back that's emerged as the replacement for the bulk of the carries in Eckler's absence. I think he takes another step forward this week. At wide receiver, I'm liking the chemistry between Joe Flacco and Brashad Perriman. These two have a history in Baltimore and it shows. With Joe Flacco at the helm, until that changes, if that changes, Perriman may become the top wide receiver over Crowder. Flacco showed a preference for him so far, and if that continues this week against the Buffalo D that can be had, Perriman could have a big week. Sneaky DFS tournament play here. As for a tight end deep dive, let's go with Ian Thomas. Just call it a hunch. He's facing the New Orleans Saints. They suck against tight ends. Let's do it. That's a little taste of the deep dives, but if you want the full Monty, you're going to have to tune in starting next week. No, you limey bastards, I'm not gonna strip for you. But my advice will leave you rock hard and swelling with confidence going into each and every week. So hit the subscribe button, the bell, give it a like, share it, and tune in every week, because you won't want to miss a single episode. Just to give you the rundown, on Tuesdays, I start off with the tirade, I go into the buy and sell, and I end on my top 10 waiver wire picks for the week. Then on Wednesdays, it's benches, bumps, and deep dives, which sounds like it should be hosted by Guy Fieri. But if you ever see me with frosted hair, flaming shirts, and a goofy smile, why don't you go ahead and shoot me in the fucking face, okay? A new era of fantasy football advice begins next week, friends. No longer will you have to deal with mediocre advice from company kiss-ups or all that boring shit that you put on just to fall asleep to. Hell no! Listen to this on the shitter and let it rip! All you so-called fantasy analysts take notice. Barry, Fabs, Rank, Smitty, Andy, Mike, and Jason, that lame Nick guy, all of you. The fantasy tyrant is here, and he's not going anywhere. This fantasy football guru has thrown down the gauntlet, and the takeover begins next Tuesday. Be ready.